Welcome to a new podcast show. And before I dive into the podcast, I would love to start it with a quote that's been written by Jim Rohn. He says that discipline and motivation, that these are two different things. He says that discipline is the most important thing, right? He says discipline is the bridge between your accomplishments and goal. Motivation might spark the fire, but it is the discipline that keeps it burning. And that's what we are going to talk about. People always talk about motivation, but and nowadays, if you because now it is the era where we are living in a different world that is called virtual world, and that's been completely transformed by people like motivational speaker, and we've got several books on this particular term that is called motivation. So motivation is a word that's been glorified in countless books, self-help books, and in motivational speeches, and at the same time on social media posts. If I say one thing that sometimes what happens, motivation, as we know, that it's a kind of feeling which doesn't stay with us forever. And if you think that you will start doing something when you feel like doing something, I think that day will never come, because you or don't feel the way, you don't feel same way all the
Mm,
time, right? And motivation is if it is misunderstood, then it can do more harm than good to you,
right.
right? Because sometimes people over rely upon motivation. And I read one quote. I don't remember who wrote this quote. He says that if you're waiting for someone to come and turn you on, what if they don't come? Will you keep yourself let it means be, will you keep let yourself be in the same kind of situation which you are? And will you be taking the charge, and will you start doing something? Because there is no perfect time, as we already know. So in this particular show, we are going to talk about motivation killing life, because in most of the cases I've felt it myself when I was thinking of doing something, or I was thinking of becoming a motivational speaker, to become a writer, to become a speaker. I would always feel that I should be getting somebody to guide me through this journey, because sometimes when you don't have anybody, you find it difficult to get started. And I was waiting for somebody to come and then start guiding me. We cannot wait for this to happen, right? When you think that you are going to do something, when you feel like doing that, chances are that may not happen instantly, and that may happen intermittently, right? So
Right.
this is what we're going to talk about. So Robin, I want you to start this particular conversation, and you would let the people know we have chosen this particular topic, like motivation killing life. Because generally people, especially on YouTube and certain other platforms, are seeking motivation, because this is what they think will keep them going. But sometimes the opposite happens when they are
Mm.
much relied upon motivation. Over to you.
Okay. Good evening, first of all, and good evening to all the people. There is no doubt in accepting the fact that we are living in the era where everything is so accessible to us in terms of knowledge. So when we have everything around us, then it becomes even more complicated situation for all of us as to what we gonna pick up as as something which we can call a knowledgeable or informative for all of us, right? Because there are too many interfaces, there are too many channels, there are too many mediums which are constantly nagging at to access those and to accept and to learn something from those channels, right? So then it becomes so imperative for all of us to be a little more cautious, to be a little more attentive with our all senses on to understand what is right and what is wrong, right? So that we could make some productive steps to achieve the very goal and motives that we have, right? Now, recently I came across or stumbled upon, I can say, one book called The Motivational Myth, and this book is written by Jeff Haddon. In fact, before I read this book, or I can say until I read this book, I was living in a certain kind of fallacy that if there is anything that serves as an impetus force for all of us, is nothing but is motivation, right? So all these motivational sources, speakers whom we often listen through podcasts, through different channels, right? Sometimes we, read their writings through editorials. We find, them as a source of motivation, a source of inspiration.
Yeah,
So in our days of despondencies, when we feel dejected after a series of failure, we often go and seek some help right from these experts, right? And undoubtedly we often find ourselves moving to out of this despondency and depressive life, and we find that we are literally having some wings, just having a small chat with these motivational speakers, and then we again get back to worse. That what eventually we find that this motivation is just a fleeting experience, not
yeah,
more than this. Which means that even when we have a very engrossed, you can say, connection or a chat with any motivational speaker, till the time we are in connection of this motivational speaker, we can say we are overwhelmed with the kind of motivation and inspiration that is needed as a fuel to go along with our purpose to attain that final objective. But the time when these motivation dissolve or dissipated, I don't know how it happens, but it happens with most of the people, as we learn from many of the experiences. Then everything looks so bleak, so depressive, and something looks like that every work that we seek for is infeasible, right?
yeah,
Unviable, right? So when we discuss these things, as motivation has got nothing to do with giving someone wings, extra confidence to move on in life after getting getting over of their previous failures, then we have to revisit this before we consider it as a final step, as a final source. Because once we read this very book, as I told you, written by Jeff Haddon, that is motivational myth, then there are plenty of things we come across, which I can certainly say that many of those people I haven't known. I mean, I can't say that they haven't seen the life the way this writer has seen, perhaps, because when I read the book, I found the book is so uh, mesmerizing for many reasons, because it shows and visualize things which so far were unperceivable, but just because of Jeff Haddon, and its version in the form, I think, that we get from the book is unbelievable. So I believe that motivation is obviously a source of inspiration, a source of you can say, I mean, a kind of confidence many people need at a certain point of time, but it cannot be a permanent source,
yeah.
because the life of the motivation is always very less. And since the life is less, so there is nothing as such which could be very hopeful about, right? So in today's video we will talk about the motivation and its life as a source of inspirations in the life of people. And if it is, then how it works, and if it is not, then what are those things which are still need to be introduced and addressed to the public at large, so that other steps could be taken into consideration. Because at the end of the day, we all want certain kind of mechanism to be well established for all of us, so that after following these steps, we could actually reach to that point which we really want to reach, right? So all these things we will try to cover up in this video. Over to you.
When I go to my class and I find my students saying that they keep asking me to motivate them for so that they can feel like doing something, they'll be feeling energetic, they'll be feeling overwhelmed with the sense of doing something fantastically well, right? So I often tell them that if I give you motivation, that is not going to last, and you'll feel that you are going to change the whole world in a matter of days. it is going to happen only for a while, but again you'll be back to the normal, right? Because this has been your behavior, this has been your nature, and this cannot be changed in just a matter of days, right?
Right.
So what I tell them, that if you really want to achieve a goals, then instead of always be looking for motivation, why don't you keep your eyes on a goal and say that if I do something today, no matter what my situation is, no matter what my feelings are, but I will give it a try. And if I do something, I will be able to be rewarded for these efforts which I'm making today. So you
Right.
have to always keep you have to keep your eyes at the rewards which you are gonna be given once you have reached that level. So for reaching the, if you want to reach that level, you have to do something today. And for this, you cannot always be dependent on motivation.
Right.
And here, there is one question that arises is why do people often depend on motivation instead of discipline? What I personally believe is that instead of being solely dependent on motivation is going to kill your spirit, right? What you need to keep into account is, there are certain other traits of a person which will keep pushing them to push the limits, right? For example, discipline is one of them. What I believe is no matter how you're feeling at the moment, but if you are disciplined, you will be able to tackle your these inner demons called the laziness and certain other things, the negativity. If you're disciplined, then you'll somehow be steering a life to be there where you want yourself to be. So before I start speaking about the same, I want you to tell me why do you think that people, generally I'm not talking about all the people, but generally people depend solely on motivation instead of discipline? What?
See, let's understand this from the environment that is created, right? We all look for some services. And since we are living in the era where we have all things available at our disposal, just a click away. So if you have an internet facility, so nothing is inaccessible to you. All you need to just to have a subscription of a particular channel, or there are many channels which are running for free, no charge for anyone, right?
Hmm.
Now, when such a situation arises, as I rightly said right in the beginning, then what happens that people often seek for help or a slight assistance, even
Yeah.
for a simple thing which he could do without having any assistance. So too much of reliance on people's opinion or on people's suggestions, I think, has been developed over the period of time, and that is what I find is the setback that we face right now. So are why do people be more relied upon all these discipline, motivation is your question. We need to understand the entire market that is set up right now is based on commercialization.
Yeah, over commercialization of this motivation, they have over
Yep.
commercialized.
I was really shocked to know one fact that this motivation, if considered as an industry, whole industry that is working around us, that is worth of crores of rupees, billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So this is a particular industry, right? And what is industry is also in the later stages, and what is commercialized is also a business.
Yeah.
So even when people don't know about what motivation is all about, they often stumble upon it through watching reels, through watching videos, as advertisements are that pop up every single second, right? And therefore this connection builds up. This link establishes between the seeker and the service holder, right? One who provides service. And that's how people start seeking these helps from motivational speakers. I mean, earlier people were pretty much kind of mature, that they were pretty able to cope up with the things in their own ways without seeking for any assistance. In yesteryears I'm talking, because there was no such well set up arrangement of this internet facilities, right? People were living in the remotest cities have no access to these kinds of internet facilities, right? So they were very able to cope with these on their own problems, and to get rid of these to overcome all these in their own ways, right? So they had, the process which you rightly said, the process is to develop or to practice self discipline of everything, right? People then had a lot of, reliance over these particular self discipline habit. What is discipline? Discipline is all about building up personal habit
Yeah.
to do a certain thing over the period of time until one gets expertise in that particular field, right? And
Yes.
that is what discipline is all about. One has to be more consistent in the field. One has to be more persevere in the particular field. One has to be more focused on what he does and needs to be doing for over the period of time to get a certain maximum results in the same process. That is what disciplinary life is all about. But people today, just because of the business of motivation has become so vast and so, overreaching, that is almost, covering, you know, the entire populations living in whatsoever area or region. I think their dependency, the people dependency on motivations grows over the period of time. That is the one reason which I found, first of all. Now, once people understand that this motivation is fleeting in nature, which means that it doesn't provide that service or that permanent results, then people then realize that there could be alternative
Yeah.
to it. And once they realize that what could be the possible alternative in their search for the alternative and substitute of this motivation, they end up finding the very same conventional process of building up one's personality, that is help or self discipline habit, building up habit, right? And that's how they go on working on the disciplinary lifestyle. They become so engrossed in their own process of learning, and they routinely work on that until they get final results, right? So one reason which I find for why people are not being reliant on self discipline, and instead of being overly relied on motivation, is that people are being told to do so. Multiple channels are doing their business, and they are somewhere persuading people to believe this fact. And second important, I think, thing is the way motivational speakers project the ideas, project the possibilities, which is so arresting. It is much like hypnotizing people, right?
Yeah.
Let's take an example of any motivational speaker. Just because of he is a good speaker, his command over eloquency and communication skill is so deep and unfathomable that he is well, guided under under certain kind of rules and regulation. And with the help of it, he has the power to get the nerve of the people.
Yeah.
And by using this tactic, by using this, power or this mastery, I think he suddenly, inveigles people into believing something which is not, right? These days, there is one thing which is also very in trend, that is to tell the story of some successful people and make people believe to do the same thing,
Yeah.
which in reality turns out to be nothing as a result to one who seeks for certain results, right? And that's a reality. So when you bring about certain positive stories of some successful people, telling the hard work of that particular person, telling the success, not hard work more, but exposing the success, exposing the lifestyle, exposing the wealth, exposing the riches of that person. This actually hits the nerve of the audience or the spectators, right? And that's how people start believing all these things. So I think this is one of those reasons why people have lost faith in in managing their own personal lifestyle based on self discipline and building up habit and focusing on one's life and action, as what many people say, many success people have written in their books, that one who wants to be successful in their life has to follow a certain instructions. And one of those few instructions is that to build up a self disciplinary lifestyle and to continue to that until the person reaches to the final point, which is the point of success. And this requires this immense degree of perseverance, quality. These attributes are considered to be an essential attributes of a successful person. Unfortunately, motivational speakers, as they all have some direct or indirect connections to these industries of motivations, they are paid by those motivational industries
Yeah.
actually foretelling these things and fabricating these things among the large audience, to let the large audience to, to believe into these, ideas and talks. So for that they continue to do that, and ultimately the sufferer is always on the other side of the recipient state, right? And the benefiter, as we all know, the one who actually gives this speech in the form of motivation. So this is all kind of a cycle which is a manufactured one, and that is a product of a particular vast sprawling industry which is run by some you know I mean some mastermind people who do it for the purpose of doing some monetary benefits, and they usually get it right. So this is all what it is. Everything is so visible and evident before us that I think sometimes we don't need to prove it, providing certain facts to corroborate it, right? Over to you.
And motivation, as I told in the beginning, has been glorified by motivation speakers and these self-help books. You might have also read about so many motivational speakers that they also had to go through certain phases of depression in their lives. And if they think that people can stay motivated all the time, then why this happened to these people?
Right.
Because motivation is not going to be there forever, right? We are human beings, and we have all types of emotions, and motivation is one of them. And these emotions are fickle. These are, very temporary. Their life is, if you don't pursue a particular emotion, then it's going to be very fleeting, right? It doesn't last long.
Right.
And as I told in the beginning, that motivation alone can help you succeed. So, for example, if there is a person who has worked hard a lot and he has not able to reach the goals which he set for himself, then this is very natural that they'll be feeling a bit low. And if somebody feels low, then the people generally what they say, they say that stay motivated, and you have to stay positive. Then this seems, very very difficult for the person, because feelings will be there, and feelings, your moods, your feelings depend on the kind of experience you have at that particular moment, right? So they always use, I'm talking about motivational speakers, they say that they use this slogan, and this is very, you can say, they have hyped it up. They say that stay motivated, stay positive. Is it possible for a person to stay motivated and positive forever? I think impossible, right?
Right.
Because nobody in the world, no matter how positive a person is, but nobody in the world can never feel. There is nobody who can will
There's no
never
effort,
feel who
absolutely.
will never
Yeah.
feel depression, and low feel, who will it is not possible. Actually, these are emotions, and that's why we are called, emotional beings, right? So this is, what I'm asking you, that how does the pressure, because it's a kind of pressure on people when they say that they have to keep themselves motivated and positive all the time, so they always feel this pressure when they don't have this feeling, so they feel the pressure of being positive or being motivated all the time. So this is what I'm asking you is, how does the pressure to stay motivated impact mental health of people?
This is quite surprising, and to me, it sounds more like an irony. People who seek for this absolute state of mind as in the form of ecstasy for 24 hour, which I think is impossible, because there is no as such state, by the way, because there is no absolute state of mind where people are living constantly in one state of mind. It's not possible. People who realize this reality, I think, have almost taken themselves away from accepting this fact, and therefore you will find these people don't find much problems in leading their life, because they have absorbed uh, the very nectar essence of life, that there is nothing as such permanent state of mind in which people will always feel exuberance for no reasons, right? Now, the core point which I want to highlight here is that one who wants to be motivated. I think we need to understand that those people who are seeking for motivation and they actually go and end up meeting with some motivational speakers, they often forget one thing, that even when they have a chit chat with a motivational speaker, the result of the communication is always negative. And if it is positive, but not for a permanent period, so there is no as such difference as one can perceive right from a chit chat from a motivational speaker. I think it is the duty of the motivational speaker to come out with certain facts, reveal them on the faces, that there is nothing as such state which will help you to lead one state of mind forever. One thing which is also very important is that why don't people understand success could be an impetus force to be enjoying this very state of mind that is called happiness, right? I don't understand why people don't understand that this could also be in a substitute.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about success, I'm talking about all those small success
Small successes,
that,
which we,
that
for example, if we have set one goal like today, I will walk 1 kilometer. And
yes,
if I
one
do
kilometer.
that, this should be, acting or functioning as an impetus, right?
this this idea alone is the first step towards making oneself a disciplinary person or disciplined person,
And
right? This
no, motivation follows.
motivation follows, obviously it follows motivation. See, until unless you put yourself into the working system and face something that comes out as a result of it, you cannot be confident at all. But once you learn something out of this, then there is a possibility that you can learn something. So if you consider your slight learning as a part of your success and you start enjoying that, then I think that will be the biggest motivation for you to go along with the journey, on the journey to achieve that final point. And that is where people, you know, uh, I think fail to understand this. So it is success, I can say, which precedes motivation.
Yeah.
There is nothing as such motivation that could precede success. One has to put oneself into a hard working lifestyle and then needs to taste a certain success out of it, regardless of the degree of success. And considering that success, they need to move forward in the same direction. And that's how the entire cycle is made, and then person continues to follow on the path. Many successful people do that. So it makes us realize one thing, what? That it is success which comes first, not the motivations.
Yes.
So this very motivation myth is here bust by this very fact that it is your success that comes first, not the motivation. Motivation doesn't do anything in this matter, right? So if you have started anything and you get even a slight success in that, okay, then you can call yourself a success. And this success, when you feel, perceive, then automatically you start having some positive chemical changes in your body, which actually makes you feel, you know, this very state of happiness, ecstasy, because the chemical release that happens and takes place within the body in the blood chemistry, right? Out of this success that we perceive is itself, uh, I mean, manifest through your expressions, through your bodies and the movements. So that's how all these things work. One has to be a little bit I think concerning about it and needs to be a little bit investigating about it before they go and seek for a direct help from these so-called motivational speakers. What do you?
And for this reason, people, how can people do this? They can, they have goals for themselves, and they can subdivide, or you can say they can divide that goals into steps, and they can to take those steps. People can be, they can take the baby steps, and these baby steps will lead to the steps
Right,
they have decided for themselves, and these steps are going to lead them to their final destination. And this whole process will then fill them with this motivation, and motivation is the process which follows, as you talked about, right? So once they have achieved something, whether no matter how small that achievement
right,
is, but this is going to boost the person's morale, and this is going to help the person
right.
to take himself or herself to the next level, right?
Right.
One thing we will talk about is generally as this is also there that people set goals, but sometimes these goals are very unrealistic. In the similar fashion, motivation can also be unrealistic, right? Sometimes it is real and sometimes is unrealistic. So tell me, what's the difference between the realistic motivation and toxic positivity? Because sometimes people become overly positive, right? And they think that they should never be feeling negative, and negativity just there's just falls in people's life, no matter how hard they try. So tell me, how can people overcome this particular thing, like realistic motivation and toxic positivity? What's the difference, and how people can overcome it, and they can emerge victorious?
As we talked a lot about how this motivation industry works, and we have also talked about its impact on one's mind. So one gets kick after following a certain video of a motivational speaker,
Yeah,
and this is well exemplified by those current pattern that we see, that there are some UPSC teachers who actually entered in this motivational field, and they
yeah.
are working as a motivational speakers too. When they hold a communication with UPSC aspirants, these UPSC aspirants are the one who have decided this journey to be becoming an IAS officer in their future as a career option.
Mm.
But their communication, their talks, their words, their lines are also perceived by those which haven't enrolled in the same for the purpose of ICE UPSC examinations, but they still feel flattered, right? As they also can do the same just because of those, cumbersome, words, those powerful words. And when people, those who haven't seen the reality of the world, those who haven't tasted the bitter part of this world, the cruelty of the world, they often get carried away with these kinds of motivational speeches, and they start feeling as if they could also do the same thing by following a certain procedure as it is told to them by these motivational speakers. I mean, sentences such as, quotes such as, never give up,
Hmm.
and you need to continue to be persevered, right? Regardless of what happens to you, regardless of your condition, your financial conditions, you have to stick to only one goal. So these are the quotes which keep fueling you know to the aspirations of the people. It is good for those who have decided for the same, but it is always felt as toxicity for those who have just enrolled in this particular field after listening to these powerful lines as a result of motivation, right? And then after they get enrolled in that, they feel that it is something unfeasible for them, something for which they are not meant, which they later realize. But just because of they have committed to the family members, they have committed to the nearby people living in the societies and their peers, they start feeling pressurized, because they many people leave their own hometown and come and get settled in cities, pay handsome money monthly basis
Yeah.
just for accommodating purpose, for as a fee. And when they taste failure in the life, they really feel depressed, because by the time they you know uh, fail, they must have lost everything. Their financial conditions weaken almost. Then in these cases we find these people often get depressed, and they really don't find any hope of a ray of hope, so that they could help them overcome this sadistic lives thought process. So one thing which I want to say as a remedy to this, one has to be very clear to oneself. That's what we have talked more about, self awareness, and that is what the self awareness can really play a crucial role in that. When you do a little introspection, you understand what's your ability and what's not your
Yeah.
ability, right?
Sometimes because of feeling that motivation which has been given by somebody, we think that we can do everything, or
That's
that's what they say, that you can do anything. This is
this is
impossible because your
this is
qualities,
impossible.
your abilities are different, and you can do whatever you have, whatever you're capable of. How can
See,
you do everything?
we have to understand this very fact. I mean, not everyone is meant to be an IAS officer.
Yeah,
This is what we need to understand. People have their specific duties to perform, and it's always good for them who realize it in their early ages
yeah,
and get centered on that particular task. So it's very important that one has to be completely aware of oneself. Every person also has a certain degree of talent or a mastery at a certain thing. It's all a matter how and when the person realize it.
yeah.
Once the person realizes it, I think the life becomes so smooth and so livable that there comes no such obstruction in the life as it is usually, faced by a large number of people. So people who follow the words of others without having a self talk as to whether they are capable of doing that or not, often the one are told to be victimized, and the one who has a thorough understanding and self-awareness, they can get rid of all these things because they know the reality where they stand, right? One thing which I want to say that just because of this motivation has become a very big industry, okay, then I think it's also a responsibility of those who are the main stakeholders in this department, in this particular industry, to make people aware about the reality of it,
Yeah.
and serve motivation in a way where people should take it as as really something meaningful to them, not as forceful to them. Because once something is accepted as a forceful result, then today or tomorrow it is going to collapse. That is what the natural thing, right? And that is likely to happen in most of the cases. So, I mean, these are the things I think, if well discussed and addressed, I think things could be better in the upcoming days. Right, over to you.
And when I go to my class, I find that because generally, because we have also got some pressure on us that we have to keep motivating the students to learn. But what I find is because we can understand people. I've been dealing with people for quite a long time, and I know what they really want and what they're capable of. I find that there are students who are not good at studies, but they're good at some other skills. Some
Mm,
other things like
mm,
some are good, some are flutists, some are dancers, some are good singers, and some are pianists, right? I've seen everything with my own eyes, and I realize that why this is being imposed on them, because they will just break down actually. This is not going to be possible for them because they're
right.
made for something else. So just people are just going on motivating them, and they think that okay, if I haven't done it, I will be doing it tomorrow, and I will make it happen. And this just goes on, and there is no result actually. They fail to reach where they can, if they do something which they're good at, right? So motivation kills their life, motivation kills their spirit, motivation kills their skills as well. If this motivation is applied in the fields, or no, in the skills which they can do fantastically well, I think this can produce some good results. But because we force them in one particular direction, so
Mm,
this makes the matters worse actually, right? And
mm,
one more thing we will talk about is, tell me, as I told in the beginning, that I personally believe it's so as well. I always believe that discipline is the most important thing. I always say to people that there are 4 Ds which they are supposed to apply if they want to scale heights. And these 4 Ds are discipline, dedication, determination, and devotion. These 4 Ds are should be, these 4 Ds should be there with the people,
right.
and they should be applying all these Ds in the lives if they want to see their exponential growth, right? So but we are talking about discipline and we are talking about motivation right now. So tell me, why do you think, and why is it, it is, it is said that discipline is more important than motivation? We know that the motivation is not long lasting, but discipline is really. So tell me, why do you think that discipline is more important than motivation?
Uh, it's very natural that one who is seeking for an urgent and immediate result, that one has to put forward, with some actions first. So this is action that needs to precede, and thereafter should come the result, and that is a common process, a natural process. So discipline lifestyle or disciplinary lifestyle is that where a person commit to act, to perform.
Yeah,
And since it is discipline, so one can assume that these act and performance needs to be repeated for multiple times on multiple occasions till one gets expertise on that. So, in other words, what we are doing is that we are trying to get and hold a certain degree of mastery over a certain task. Once you get mastery on a particular thing, it is likely that you become a very expert of that thing. And then you can utilize the things in the more optimum manner.
yeah,
The utility of that particular actions even becomes more. And once it becomes utilitarian, then obviously people are there to take the benefits out of it. So this disciplinary lifestyle is very important because this lifestyle keeps you awakened with one thought, that you have to act regardless of the results that you get out of that action. And once you continue with that act, there is a possibility that it could turn into something more productive results. But since people need first motivation without even acting on certain thing, then this motivation doesn't work at all, because motivation is just a feeling, right? It is just a feeling that gives you a certain kind of you know f- I mean push, which you may feel for a certain period of time, but it has its certain age or life, and then it goes completely vanished. So therefore disciplinary lifestyle is very important and significant. In fact, our dharma shastra often highlights this very four ashrams.
yeah,
That's brahmacharya, agrasta ashram, vanaprastha, and sannyas.
yes.
I mean, this brahmacharya is
It's
what
all about discipline.
is all about discipline, because this is the most essential and the prerequisite aspect of human's life. Once you develop this disciplinary lifestyle, it continues to be a part of your life forever till you take your last breath. And that's what you, and when you learn, you do it right from the beginning of your childhood, means in the very first phase of your life. Therefore, as we rightly learn that a student needs to wake up early in the morning, needs
Yeah.
to hard work, needs to get to bed on the right time, and then again get back to the same process.
And
So
this proves that our those elevated saints had more scientific mindset than people have today, because they developed this particular phase of life 25 years in the beginning because they wanted people to be disciplined first,
right,
right?
absolutely, this is also right. I mean, you can say in that way because they had the total understanding of life more than today people have, right?
Yeah,
And one more thing, as we talked about motivation, I mean, this disciplinary lifestyle doesn't come alone. It comes up with a number of results with it, which is associated with it. So when you put yourself in a disciplinary lifestyle, it is likely that you are going to get something out of this life.
yeah,
So out of your 10 attempts, it is possible that you may pass in one attempt, right? And then once you get positive results, even once out of 10 attempts, then it is possible that you may feel, boosted up. Your confidence level may go up in the sky, right? And that is where you may feel this motivation. Then perhaps you won't need of artificial motivations,
Yeah,
right, from the words of other. So I mean, see this very kind of system of discipline that works for everything, which includes the source of motivation, which includes immense possibility, which also keeps working on how to increase the productivity of life. Secondly, which also, keeps the focus intact on a particular thing for a particular period of time until the person gets mastery on that. And once the person gets mastery, I think this becomes so popular and this becomes so public to the people that people start taking benefits out of it. I
yeah,
mean, all these scientists are those very well examples before us. They spend their entire life doing the same thing again and again on repetition. How many times they do the same thing
yes,
again and again throughout their life for 25 hours until they get the final results. And finally, we come to know that there is one more invention in the way. So it's something which cannot be, neglected. It's something which cannot be undermined. But unfortunately, since something has been associated with pecuniary advantage, and this motivation is one of those industries which is flourishing and thriving one, then I think it is us and many people like us could bring about this better reality about the motivation industry. I don't say that motivation industry is all bad, because there are certain figures who really do a good job in this field. I mean, Sandeep Maheshwari might have known about
yeah.
this. I mean, I really appreciate him for one reason, that he doesn't monetize his channel. However, his entire channel that he runs has a capability of earning more than 3 to 4 crore rupees per month, but still his channel is not monetized. So he actually, provides a service for free to the people. So I mean, there are some, examples. I don't say that everyone is, because everyone is almost evil and everyone is wicked in this field. No, it's not like this. But since we have to be, aware, and we have to take decisions using discretion. Over to you.
No, we are just talking about that people should not always be dependent on motivation, because this is not going to last forever. And that's why people should also be disciplining themselves. For example, motivation is just like thinking of having a muscular body, but discipline is forcing yourself to go to the gym and pull iron,
Right.
right, to pull weight. And motivation, just like you are thinking yourself to be speaking very, you can say very well, but discipline forces you to
You speak.
practice all those steps which you
Right.
require, right? So discipline teaches you a lot actually, and motivation is needed, but this is not the no only thing in the world. You need certain other qualities which are important really. uh, let's talk about something else that is uh, now tell me, how can a person train himself or herself to be disciplined? Because discipline, it's okay, people know the definition of discipline, and people can also take a bow to discipline themselves, but when it comes to discipline themselves, this is really going to be very hard, because it's not that easy. If I talk about sprinters, so people can imagine themselves to be the world's best sprinter. But if they really want to be a sprinter, then they'll have to be in the ground and they'll have to practice a lot. And you can say Usain Bolt was, it was not, possible. It is not possible for everybody to become Usain Bolt. He had
Right.
he had sweated a lot in the ground to make himself what he is. And although other people have also come, if we talk about Bumrah, so he is known for his Yorker, right? But this doesn't come, this doesn't come so easy. You have to practice a lot. You have to discipline yourself to, because what happens when you are bowling, you are a fast bowler and you're bowling at about 150 and 145. You have to bowl with discipline. If you are
Right.
bowling without discipline, you'll get hammered. There'll
Right.
be a hammering, as you bowl. So how can people train themselves to become disciplined, train their minds to become disciplined? It's quite difficult.
And don't we think that today people are so much trapped in overthinking?
Yeah, they are.
This
Obviously.
overthinking is very toxic sometimes. Why it is toxic? Because it is one that bottlenecks all possibilities.
Yeah,
Because it limits person ability only to thinking and not let the person to perform that on the real ground. And this is where the person needs to be a little bit cautious and very much aware that this is the point which they have to understand, and they need to focus things and practice things on the ground, because actions are performed on two possible things: one on the mental level, and second on the physical, that is the ground.
yeah.
This is the problem with the majority of the people, that they have a lot of suggestions, they have a lot of thoughts, they have a lot of opinions,
Flood
but they
of
are not able
there is
to,
flood of information nowadays.
yes, they are not able to transform them into actions.
Yes.
Until they put that into its action form, it is unlikely that they can be called as, as an actor. And since you are not an actor, you cannot call yourself a disciplined person. So this one has to be, one has to be a little bit careful about this particular habit of oneself. That is, if one is over trapped in this, thinking too much, then I think they need to overcome this, and they need to give much to work action than thinking. So this is the one way out for making people a little bit disciplined, right? Second thing which I find could be a productive one to realize and to make people practice the disciplinary lifestyle, that is start visualizing process rather than success.
Yeah.
What happens with most of the people, that we often go and talk about the success of a person, and success includes the lifestyle of the person. So one who is talking about Ronaldo, he is only talking about his success, its
Yeah.
peaks. No one is even determined and desperate to talk about his routine lifestyle, what he does, right
The
from the
work behind
first
the
day of the morning
scene.
to the dust.
The work behind the scenes.
Yeah, the work behind the scenes. No one is concerned about this. So they have to change their visualization and need to shift it from success to process. Once they do that comfortably, they find that yes, they have adopted a certain lifestyle which requires a continuous forms of action, and thereafter this disciplinary lifestyle builds up on its own. So these are the two important I think ways using which a person can be a little bit disciplined person. Third, which can also be practiced into the direction, that is to love one's work.
That is the most
People,
important thing. Yeah.
I think people, according to me, have lost this very, interest and passion for their own work.
They are doing things for the sake of doing.
Yes, they are doing thing for the sake of doing. Maybe they are very much with a thought to impress other,
Yeah.
and therefore, their own personal connection to the work is not so much, rootly bonded. So therefore, they never feel it to be doing on the ground level, and therefore this disciplinary lifestyle doesn't evolve the way it should be. So people must love their work, and if they don't love their work, they need to accept it and take a quick shift to something which they find it as a life to them. So these things could be practiced on individual level, and one can start this disciplinary lifestyle. And in this way, I think things could be even more positive, because one has to take an action at the end of the day. Until unless, I think nothing could be come out, or nothing could be there as a result out of it. Right, over to you.
Yeah. So when you've gone through all the theories, all the tips which people have given you, and then comes the execution. And execution
Right.
can only be done
Execution is very important.
if you are disciplined. And how a person can discipline themselves and develop this trait, they should be setting a very clear goal, right? If the goal is not at all clear, they will be making random, I can say haphazard efforts, and this is not
Right.
going to lead them to anything, right? And what I believe is, they should be following a certain routine, as you talked
Right.
about in your
Right.
conversation, right? If they don't follow that routine, then they will somewhere be misleading themselves, right? And this routine will help them reach a certain level, and once they have reached that level, then they can record the progress, right? And they can reward themselves for those progresses they've made, and this
Hmm.
will boost their you can say their
Hmm.
confidence, their morale. And then they should also be taking charge of their life. They should be holding themselves accountable. I mean, there should be the sense of
All
accountability,
right. Sense of
right?
accountability.
If they don't have the sense of accountability, I think they will never be able to
Hmm.
discipline themselves. And this whole process will make them disciplined. And once they have become disciplined, I think they will not be relying so much on motivation,
Right.
because they feel like doing all the time, because they have learned how to tackle themselves, and how to tackle their mind, how to tackle their thoughts, and how to keep themselves on the track. They have now learned this habit, and now they have learned, so they are going to be successful in whatever
Right.
the field they have chosen for themselves. So
Right.
this is what we wanted to talk about. We simply wanted to say that people should not only be dependent on motivation, because nowadays there is a lot of motivation going, especially in the virtual world, and people are just talking about this. What students think, even today the exams are on their head, and what they think that there should be somebody who can make it happen.
100%.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
just by saying something, this is going to this is going to you can say light a spark in them, and they will then be doing the things quickly. If they haven't been able to do the things so far, it's been almost 10 months since they started studying. They haven't done that so far, then how can they do this
Right.
matter of days? This is going to be impossible, no matter who so comes and motivates them. So they should not be dependent so much on words. They should be, you
Right.
can say, they should be translating their words into actions, and their thoughts into actions, and then the magic will happen. So there is no magic. There is nothing like discipline. There is no magic in words. Yeah, there is magic, but we have to translate them into
Right.
actions. And once this is done, then people can easily see themselves as successful, right? So
Right.
with this, I'm wrapping it up, and we will be coming up with one fantastic, topic in the days to come. Till then, take care.
Bye bye. Right.
Right.